This election, voters can choose whether or not to legalize recreational marijuana through Measure 5. And as your local election headquarters, KX News' Taylor Austin gives you a look at both sides.
If passed, Measure 5 would allow for the production, processing, and sale of cannabis and possession and use of cannabis in North Dakota for those 21 and older. Former Bismarck Mayor Steve Bakken says that this initiated measure is different from the past failed attempts, and he doesn't want to be like other states.
We did not want to become Colorado or Washington or Oregon.
And on the opposite side is Sheriff Kelly Lieben, who says he also doesn't want to be like other states.
Talk to your friends and family in the states that have legalized it and ask yourself if that's what you want for North Dakota.
I'm not a fan of the situation that they created in those states, and that was unfettered regulation.
How is it more conservative than the previous measures that have been initiated that haven't passed?
So the previous initiated measures really didn't have any controls whatsoever. It was just open it up and have at it. And that's not what we want. We didn't want to see that North Dakota would become a Colorado or a Washington or an Oregon. The opponents to Measure 5 speak a lot about marijuana back in the 70s isn't the same as marijuana today. You're right. And that's one of the things that Measure 5 does, because the state has regulation for the potency of that product.
Another argument Bakken makes is that this will allow law enforcement officers to focus on other drugs coming through our state. However, Sheriff Lieben disagrees.
And I think that's a big misperception, because right now the majority of our effort is not put on marijuana enforcement. And I say that because when we look at the level of drugs being sold and used in our county, marijuana is a low priority based on methamphetamine is still the drug of choice.
Lieben says in other states that have legalized marijuana, the black market for the drug doesn't go away. In fact, it becomes a larger issue.
When you have a product that is going to be taxed, and everybody says we're going to reap all this money from the taxation, why wouldn't there be an incentive to sell illegal marijuana that has a lower cost?
Another big argument Sheriff Lieben says is about the workforce.
You legalize a product like marijuana, the use becomes normal. If you legalize it, I think we're going to see impacts to the workforce, because certain jobs like law enforcement, we still have to restrict usage of drugs, and especially since it's illegal federally.
That's something Bakken says won't change.
All the power goes back to your employer. If you have to pass a drug test for your employment situation now, you're still going to have to pass a drug test for your employment situation. None of that's changed. You abide by the rules of your employer.
The other problem I see is the normalization that's going to be used out in public. And everybody says, no, it's not, but yet every state that has legalized it, what do people complain about? It's everywhere you go.
I want to dispel the myth of normalizing it, just because it's like that argument doesn't hold water, because if you're normalizing something, well, they've normalized ODing with Narcan. Everybody should have Narcan. Which I don't agree with.
According to the North Dakota Health and Human Services fiscal report for medical marijuana, in 2023, the program brought in over $20 million to dispensaries and distributors across our state. If recreational use were to pass, that number could increase, as well as the number of card holders, says Bakken. But only you have the power to decide. Reporting for KX News, I'm Taylor Austin.
To learn more about Measure 5 before heading to the polls, head over to our website, kxnet.com, and look for a link inside this story.